Hello, my name is Joanne Miles and I'm a Senior Community Nurse with the Walsall School Nursing Service. Welcome to our Behaviour Workshop, Managing Your Child's Behaviour. Why are we here today? We're here today because we want change. Change takes time and can often start with very small steps, and today would be the first step. But are we just here to change your child's behaviour? Hopefully the answer to that question is no. Hopefully you will also want to change your own behaviour, because in changing your behaviour as well, even just a small way, may change your child's behaviour. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. I'm a parent myself and I'm certainly not perfect. And there's definitely no such thing as a perfect child. Parenting is difficult, as we all know. It's a very hard job. If when a child was born, we were given a manual and said, here's everything you're going to need to know until that child is 18, it would be fantastic. But that's not what happens. But as a parent, you've already got many parenting skills. And what we're hoping to do today is enable you to add to those skills. This today is the start of a process, and for some, today's session may just be enough. You may decide to go away and use some of the strategies that we talk about and put them into practice. You may also decide to carry on and do one of our parenting programs, which I'll talk to you in a little bit more detail at the end. So first of all, let's talk about the causes of children's behaviour. And the first cause may be genetic. As well as inheriting eye colour and hair colour from parents, some children inherit other characteristics, such as if you have a parent who has got a very short fuse or who may be a very anxious parent, you may see those characteristics in your child. They can inherit them from one or other or both parents. So it's always worth having a think about what sort of parents are we? What might my child have inherited? The second cause of behaviour is the family environment. There's a lot that goes on at home which may affect your child's behaviour. As you can see, there's a big long list, and I'm going to go through these one at a time. The first cause may be the child or the parent escalating their behaviour to get what they want. For the child, this may be that they want to watch their favourite TV programme. They've asked to watch the programme and the parent has said no. So the child says it a little bit louder, please can I watch the TV programme? May even whine a little bit. And the parent still says no. If the child keeps going on and keeps asking, maybe escalating their voice, getting a little bit louder, eventually the parent will give in and say, okay then, that's fine, you go and watch it for 5 minutes. So what the child has learned from this is, if I keep escalating my behaviour, if I keep going on about it, I will eventually get what I want. It's the same for the parent. If the parent asks the child to do something, but they don't do it, if they say it again in a louder voice, and they still don't do it, if they shout at the child and ask them to do something and they eventually do it, what the parent is learning here is, I will only get what I want my child to do if I shout. Accidentally rewarding misbehaviour is another cause, and this is something I think every parent has done. Walking around the supermarket and a child has asked for a toy and we've said no. So the child has had a bit of a tantrum, and said, I really want that toy, crying and shouting maybe. And we've still said no. In the end, the child is having a real temper tantrum, maybe sitting on the floor, stamping their feet. This can be embarrassing behaviour, and we want to get on with our shopping. So how often have we given in and said, okay, have the toy? The child from that has learned, actually, if I keep going on, and I really misbehave, I'll get what I want. And so the parent just gives in, and the child learns, I will get what I want. Ignoring positive behaviour. We very often ignore children when they're behaving well. And this is because we expect it of them. We give children more attention if they are misbehaving. So what is the child going to do more of? The behaviour that they get more attention for. So the more that we ignore the positive behaviour, the less we are going to see it. Watching others, especially if there are older children in the family, and even the adults, children are watching all the time. If they see an older child is getting away with a behaviour, or even the adult is getting away with a behaviour, then they'll think, hang on, what is it, one rule for them and one rule for me? I'll do it as well. They're watching us all the time. Everybody in the house is a role model for a younger child. Parents' beliefs and expectations. Do we expect too much of our children? Can they actually do what we want them to do? This goes back to the ages and stages of development. So it's worth having a think about. Can my child physically and developmentally do what I want them to? Punishment that doesn't work. This is very often that threatening behaviour, that threatening punishment. I've heard myself, parents saying to a child, if you don't start behaving, you won't be coming on holiday with us next week. Is that really going to happen? Or is the whole family going to go on holiday and leave one child at home? Very unlikely. Okay. And the child knows that. They know, well, actually, they don't mean that. I know I'm going on holiday. So why should they start behaving? Parents' relationships, stress, anything that's going on in the home environment. Okay, this will have a big impact on a child's behaviour. It can make them feel sad, it can make them feel anxious. If they can see that there's lots of arguing going on, that will make them, as I said, sad and anxious, and they may try to tell you in their behaviour that something's not right. The way instructions are given to a child, as you can see, there's a big list here. Too many instructions at the same time. So a child, for instance, a child is coming from school and we've said to the child, can you take your coat off, put your shoes away, go and take your school bag upstairs, get changed, and then come back down for your tea. What's the child heard there? Probably just come down for your tea. So if the child comes down for the tea still in the school uniform and hasn't put any of the things away, can we actually tell them off? Because do we give them too many instructions? Too few instructions can work the other way. Your interpretation of tidy your bedroom and your child's interpretation of tidy your bedroom are probably very different. So does the child really know what they've got to do if they've had too few instructions? Too hard? Again, going back to these expectations, are we expecting too much? Think about their age and stage and development, and can they physically do it? Is it too difficult for them to carry out? Would you be able to give a 2-year-old a very full cup of pop and expect them to take it from the kitchen to the lounge without actually spilling any? Probably not. Bad timing. Okay, we've all had the scenario where we've asked a child to come round for the tea when actually they're playing on their Xbox and they're having a really good game, yeah? And then we get surprised when we get a bit of a mouthful back when we've asked them to come for tea. Okay, it's the same for ourselves. You're cooking the tea, you're just about to dish up, and the front doorbell goes. It's a little bit annoying, isn't it? Yeah, nothing we can do about it, okay? But we're probably in a bad mood when we open that door because we're thinking, actually, I've got to get back to dish the tea up. It's the same for a child. They're playing on the game. You just come along and said, tea's ready, but I'm in a really good place on my game, yeah? So they're not in a very good mood. And they may show that by shouting, by stamping their feet, and yeah, a few other choice words probably. It's bad timing. Advice we'd give for parents with timing would be to give plenty of warning. So if you know that tea is going to be ready in half an hour and your child is playing on the game, maybe just say, you've got half an hour until tea is ready. Don't forget. 20 minutes later, right, tea will be ready in 10 minutes. So can you start to wind your game down now? Can you come off? And then maybe another 5 minutes later, right, tea will be on the table in 5 minutes now. Can you turn your game off? So the child knows. If you knew that person was coming to your front door, you wouldn't have been timing the tea to be dished up at just that time, would you? And not clear instructions. Was it clear exactly what you wanted them to do? Yeah, bit like goes back to the tidy in your bedroom. Was the child clear exactly what was expected of them? To be clear, I would always say to a child, can you tell me what I've just asked you to do? So you know that they've understood. So there's a few hints and tips there, and you can probably see some of that is going on in your home. The family environment is massive. Health. We know ourselves if we're not feeling very well, yeah, we don't perform to the best of our ability. It's the same for children. If they're not feeling very well, they may not really want to do something, so they can appear a lot more difficult. A child who's got an issue with hearing may have the TV turned up very loud, and even though you've repeatedly asked them to turn it down, they keep turning it up. Can they actually hear? They're not really being awkward, they just can't hear it. The same if they're sitting directly in front of the TV. Can they see it? Okay, it might be worth getting their eyesight checked. If we don't eat, we don't have the energy, okay, to do anything. So if a child hasn't got a very good appetite, have they got the energy to sit in the classroom? Have they got the energy to do their work? Have they got the energy to do what they're being asked to do? So again, just worth checking out, is my child 100% healthy? Are they feeling well? Influences outside of the home, okay? These are things that we don't have so much control over. So their friends, who they're playing with at school, yeah, who they're playing with out in the street, who they're playing with out in the garden. But people at school, and they haven't even got to be friends, they may just be children of their own age that they see in the classroom and they see them behave in a certain way. That will all have an influence on their behaviour. How your child is doing at school. It's November now, we're just going into November, so it hasn't been that long since transition. Has your child settled well into their new class? Are they finding it difficult? If they are finding schoolwork difficult, they may develop behaviour problems. It may be their way of telling you something not right. I'm not managing very well. Technology and social media is massive. Obviously, children learn negative behaviour from what they see and what they hear. Think about what your child has access to. Think about the computer games, the sort of computer games that they are playing. Even cartoons on TV have aggression in them. Yeah. And even music on the radio, the swearing. Yeah. Whatever they're hearing, they may copy. Whatever they're seeing, they may copy. So it's definitely worth having a look at what they've got access to. There are parental controls, so you can control to a certain extent. But as well with technology and social media, obviously it's not just what they've got access to and what you're controlling, it's what their friends have access to if they go to their houses. If there's an older brother or sister in the house that has got access to social media, are they showing the younger child? Yeah, so worth seeing what else is in the house. Yeah, has my child got access to older games, even though I don't give them to themselves? If there is an older child, they may still have access. Monitoring your child's behaviour is a useful way of checking, why is this happening? Yeah, where it's happening and when it's happening, and what you as a parent are doing in reaction to it. So it's really good idea to monitor this behaviour because it will give us more of an idea of what's going on. So what we recommend you use is something called an ABC chart. An ABC chart will help give us a better idea, gives us a few more clues, okay, and we can see what's happening, where it's happening, when it's happening, who it's happening with, why it might be happening, and how you are reacting to it. As you can see, ABC, three simple letters. The A is for the antecedent, and this is before. So what happened immediately before the behaviour happened? So that will be things like where you were, who was there, what was going on, what were you feeling, what was the child feeling, what do you think the child might have been feeling? That's a really important one. And what was the environment like? What noises were there? That sort of thing. The B is the behaviour itself. What was the behaviour that you actually saw? What did the child do? What were they saying? What were you feeling when the behaviour happened? And what do you think the child was feeling as well? And the C is consequence. What happened immediately afterwards? So what did you do in reaction to that behaviour? What did your child do exactly after the behaviour? What were you thinking at the time? And what do you think your child was thinking? Let me show you a nice easy example of this behaviour chart. So as you can see, this is just a very simple example. So we've got the date down the side. I'd say date and time is very important as well, because sometimes if we can pinpoint specific days, specific times, sometimes we think actually it always happens after they've been to a certain place, happens when they've got back from school, it happens immediately before school. So date and time is really important. The A is that antecedent. What happened before? So as you can see, the example here is we were walking around the supermarket and the child asked for some sweets. The parent said no, she couldn't have sweets because we've just come shopping for food. The B is that behaviour. So what did Jane, the child, do? She had a tantrum. Of course she did. She was just been told no, she can't have any sweets. She started screaming and hitting the parent. And the C, that consequence. So what did the parent do? So she bought her the sweets because the behaviour was a little bit embarrassing, as we all know. And when the parent got home, she told the child off. Hopefully you can see a couple of things wrong with that. Okay, so first of all, the first thing is she's rewarded that misbehaviour by giving Jane the sweets. Just giving in, as she said, the behaviour was a little bit embarrassing. I want to just get my shopping done. Here, have the sweets. And then she told Jane off when they got home. Okay, this could have been an hour later. I don't know where the supermarket was, but it could have been quite a while later. As the child's probably forgotten all about it by now. Okay, it's really important that when you see a behaviour, you deal with it there and then. So there has to be a consequence for the behaviour, and there has to be a discussion about that behaviour, about why it's wrong. We don't always praise children when they're behaving well, do we? We very often ignore them. I said this earlier. We expect it of them. But actually, if we receive praise ourselves, it feels nice. And it's a really important way of encouraging positive behaviour. I know myself as an adult, if somebody comes up to me and says, well done for doing that piece of work today, it's really helped, it's really good piece of work. That makes me feel brilliant. I feel really proud of myself. It feels nice. But if I don't get it very often, if I get ignored, and especially if I know I've done some good work, but it's just expected, you just feel like, why should I bother? And that's the same for children. If they get ignored when they're behaving well, they'll probably think, why should I bother? I only get attention when I'm misbehaving. When we are giving children praise, it's really important we give very descriptive praise. That's describing exactly what it is you liked about what they did. So if your child has been playing really nicely with their sibling, it may be worth saying to them, well done for playing with your brother or sister today. That's really helped me. It was lovely to hear you getting on so well. It should be stated very enthusiastically and very genuinely as well. If you just say, oh, thank you, that means nothing, does it? And the child knows that means nothing. Some children do find it very difficult to accept praise and compliments. Very often that because they don't get them enough, they find it very difficult. The more that we praise children, the easier it is for them to accept them. If we are praised or complimented ourselves, for instance, a compliment, if somebody says to you, I really like that top that you're wearing, the colour really suits you. Sometimes we'll turn around and say, oh, this old thing, had it from Primark last year. Yeah, we try and deflect that compliment. We don't want to appear big-headed. Or we might even turn around and say, I like yours as well, it's really nice. And we just deflect it back onto them. And some children are exactly the same. They don't feel nice when they receive a compliment, they find it really difficult. All we've got to do is encourage our children to say thank you. It's the same for yourself. When you receive a compliment, all you've got to do is say thank you. That's all that's needed. And the more that we can do that, the more that we can encourage them to give and receive compliments, the easier it will be for them to receive them. Rewards. Many parents will say to us when we're talking about reward charts, I've tried reward charts in the past, they don't work. Okay, depends what you're using the reward chart for. They are very good for managing problem behaviour, but it's a lot better to use them if they're very specific. So rather than saying I'm going to use a reward chart for encouraging my child for behaving well, pick one specific behaviour and use it for that. And use it in a positive way. So for instance, if your child is a child that swears, okay, and you don't want to use that sort of language, you could use a reward chart for them talking in a nice voice, using nice language. Rewards don't have to cost money. The biggest reward you can give your child is your time. That's what they want. They want more of you. It's very difficult to give them a reward at the moment that's going to involve other people, because obviously we can't mix. But you can give them a reward that involves you spending time with them, doing something nice together. So that could be baking, it could be playing a game, it could be them teaching you how to play a game on the PlayStation. It could be something very simple, but as long as it involves you and them and time and some of your time, that's what they want. They don't have to cost money. Okay, a reward has got to be something that's also agreed with the child. It's no use saying to the child, oh, for your reward, you're going to get a book about dinosaurs if they're not actually into dinosaurs. That's not really much of a reward, is it? It's got to be something that they want as well. If a child is earning rewards, they're more likely to keep doing that behaviour. So make it easy for them to attain a reward to begin with, and then make it more difficult. If they can see that they're getting rewards, they're getting some nice stars on their star charts, yeah, they'll think, yes, I can do this. It gives them a little bit of an incentive, and they will be more likely to do it. Once the behaviour is improving and the child is getting lots of rewards for it, you can start to phase that one out and maybe bring in another reward chart for a different behaviour, another behaviour that may be a problem. So as you can see, reward charts can work, they do work, okay? They've just got to be done very positively. So there's some really good charts out there. You can make your own charts. For an older child, it doesn't have to be a chart. Tokens work very well as well, and they can exchange their tokens at the end of the week for a big reward. Diagnosis. Obviously, some parents will come to us and say, I feel that I want a diagnosis for my child, or I feel that there's something wrong. But getting a diagnosis takes a long time, okay? And it usually starts with the low level of intervention. Today is probably that lowest level of intervention, attending a workshop and getting a few more strategies to try at home. If you're going to get a diagnosis for your child, such as ADHD or autism, it's unlikely that the diagnosis will be given unless it's happening across different settings. So if it's not happening in school and at home, then it's unlikely you will get a diagnosis, because that proves that the child can actually control their behaviour. But whatever diagnosis a child has, you still have to manage that behaviour. Okay, so a diagnosis will give you a piece of paper saying your child has, but that's not going to help with you managing the behaviour. So it's really important that you start managing the behaviour now, or starting to think about how you're going to manage the behaviour. because the process of the diagnosis will come later. Early help. Okay, some families need extra support from a number of services when their child is presenting with behaviour problems. It may be that you need support from school, from children's services, from school nursing. You may need that support from a range of different services. And in Warsaw, we have a service called Early Help, which can pull all those services together and make sure that they work together. Parenting is challenging, and very often at times families need that extra support. It might be worth you going onto the Early Help website, as you can see it's there, and just have a look at what support they offer and see if that's something that may be useful to you yourselves as a family at the moment. What I would say from today is to monitor your child's behaviour. That's going to be the first thing to do. It will give you a lot more information about when the behaviour is happening, maybe why it's happening, and how you are reacting to it. So it's very important that you put that little bit of work in now, just to have a look at what's causing my child's behaviour. Noticing the good behaviour. As I've already mentioned, we don't always notice it, okay, but it's there and it's always worth looking for. And when you do notice it, give lots of praise, lots of compliments. Providing engaging supervised activities. We all know when children are bored, that's when they are more likely to misbehave. So if we can give them more activities to do, it will keep them busy. Ensuring that there's routines in place. Many children will say to us, many parents will say to us even, that my child is very well behaved in school, but when they come home, they're not so well behaved. Very often that's because there are plenty of routines in place in school. They know what's expected, where they're supposed to be at a certain time, what's expected of them, what the rules are. If there aren't any rules at home, they can just let off that steam. Okay, you're more likely to see that misbehaviour. So make sure that there's some routines in place and that you may notice a difference. Be very consistent, and that's not just about your consistency. It's about every adult that looks after your child, that takes care of them, using the same strategies and being very consistent in their approach as well. So if your child is looked after by another parent or by grandparents, childminder, it's very important that they are using the same strategies as yourself to manage the behaviour, because the child won't know where they are, won't know what's expected if there's different rules in different places. If you're struggling with your child's behaviour in school, it's important to find out what they're doing, how are they managing it. Really important that the communication between yourselves and school is open and you've got good communication there. If they are managing your child's behaviour in school, what actually are they doing? What are they doing that you're not? What support is there in place? Is there a good communication between you and school? Is there a good communication between you and your child's teacher? And is your child's additional needs, if they have them, being supported? We know if a child is struggling in school, sometimes children misbehave to get out of the classroom, to get out of doing the work. If they do that, if they get out of the classroom, they get out to doing the work, they get what they want. And if they're getting what they want, they're more likely to do that behaviour again. So you may see if your child is struggling in school, their behaviour escalating. If the additional needs aren't being met and the support isn't being put in place. School nursing, we run a number of parenting programmes, and these may be something that you feel that you want to access. Following this presentation, really, we have Understand Your Child's Behaviour, which is the Solihull approach, and that's for children aged 0 to 11. We have Group Triple P, which again is for age 0 to 11, and the Teen Triple P programme, which is for teenagers, obviously 11 to 16-year-olds. I'm just going to talk about each one in a little bit more detail now. So the Solihull approach is a 10-week parenting group. Okay, it lasts for about 2 hours a week, and it's suitable for parents of children under the age of 11 years. And it's basically what it says on the tin: understanding why your child behaves in the way that they do. It will help you to understand them. It will help you to understand their feelings. It will help you to understand their developmental needs. And it will help you to improve that communication relationship with your child. It's a really good first parenting program to go on because, as I say, it helps you to understand your child in a better way. We also talk about having fun together. We talk about play as well and why play is so important. And we also talk about self-regulation. So if your child has trouble getting to sleep, or you have trouble with your child at bedtime, this may be a good program to go on because it will help you to understand why that might be happening. And with anger, the same. We talk in detail about anger, and it will help you to understand why your child may be getting angry and how you can calm your child back down. The Triple P parenting program goes into a lot more detail about why children behave how they do, or why they do. Okay, and as I say, we do two different ones: the 0 to 11 age group and the 11 to 16s. It's very similar, but obviously the strategies that we talk about are differentiated for the older children. We talk about how to build positive relationships within the family with the children, because that's really important. If you can have a better relationship with your child, you're less likely to see the misbehaviour. And how to promote those behaviours that you do want to see more of. But it also gives you a lot of strategies for managing that misbehaviour. This is an 8-week course, okay, but you actually only do 5 weeks within the group. The other 3 weeks are telephone calls. So within those 8 weeks, we would ring you for 3 of those weeks, and it's a one-to-one telephone call with you. Okay, so it's a really good program to go on if you are really struggling with your child's behaviour and you don't know what strategies to put into place. Have you ever noticed, if you're on an aeroplane or you've watched a film where they're on a plane, that the announcement comes over the tannoy? If anything happens, the oxygen mask will fall. Always put your own on before you help the person next to you with theirs. We know as parents this is very, very difficult to do. We always want to put our children first, okay? But actually, if we're not in a good place ourselves, how can we be in a good place to manage our children's behaviour? If we aren't in a good place ourselves, if we are anxious, many children will mirror that anxiety and they communicate that through their behaviour. And this can be through anger, this can be through misbehaviour, okay? If a child has good emotional well-being, then they are in a much better place to be able to support their child, especially if their child is struggling. And this is why we run a group called the Adult Resilience Programme. The Adult Resilience Programme will help you to build your confidence, not just in parenting, but if you are an anxious person anyway, it will help you to build your confidence. It will reduce anxiety and help you to cope with anxiety-provoking, challenging situations in a more easy way. It will help us to think about our own feelings and the feelings of others. It helps you to identify when you're getting stressed and what to do about it. Because when you're getting stressed, you need to calm back down. It's about recognising when we're getting stressed, recognising those early signs so we can do something about it before it gets too bad. It's about recognising that when we are stressed, we tend to have negative thoughts. If we can catch those negative thoughts early enough and change them into positive thoughts, then that will make us feel better. It will make our actions be more positive. We all have support networks. We don't always use them to the best that we should. So it's about recognising who's in our support network and using them effectively. And it's about when we're faced with difficult situations, knowing how to change it and how to break it down into easily achievable steps, because it's a lot easier to deal with something one step at a time. As you can see on this final slide, there are lots of ways of getting more help. Okay, within school nursing, we've got a text messaging service for parents, but we also have a nurse on duty Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and that's the number that you can contact a duty nurse and talk about any aspects of your child's health or development that you have concerns about. There are two national websites there, Health for Kids and Health for Teens. If you go onto them, there is a drop down box where it says your area and you can click onto Walsall. Lots of information on there about what's available in the Walsall area for you and your child. As you can see, we also have a chat health service for young people 11 to 19-year-olds, where they can text a school nurse themselves. If they've got any concerns about any aspect of their health, they can chat to somebody via a text messaging service, which is a lot easier than talking to somebody face to face. We are on Instagram and we are on Twitter. It's a really good idea to follow us on Twitter because we put lots of information on there about our up and coming groups. If you are interested in doing any of our parenting groups or our adult resilience group, you can contact us. You can contact a lady called Sam Masood. Okay, she can be contacted on 01922 423292. That's her telephone number. But you can also email her at wellbeing@walsallhealthcare.nhs.uk. Okay, so if you feel that you'd like any more information about any of those groups or you'd like to book on, then please give Sam a ring or send her an email. Okay, thank you for attending today's workshop. I hope you found it useful. If you do have any further questions, as I say, please give us a ring on the 01922 423349. Thank you.